Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King 2. And today I'm going to be giving you part 30 of What If Naruto Learned the Clone Secret in the Beginning. Remember to get this one to 200 like as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also, go ahead and check out the new episode of What If Naruto had the Red Rinnegan and was neglected over an Anime King, and enjoy that guys. And also guys, stay in tune for What If Naruto was an OP Seal Master on this channel. And I'm gonna be posting a new episode of What If Naruto became the God of Wind over an Anime King, so stay tuned for that guys. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice, and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all for helping and support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Begin the intro. So, the last spot we left off, the group met up with Temari, as they told her what happened. So with that, they quickly made their way towards the hidden sand, but they had to stop because of the deadly sandstorm, as Temari was a bit shaken up knowing that Conqueror was poisoned, and knowing that Gaara was taken, as Naruto hugged her, as Tenten was coming back, seeing that she came on mission with them. As she saw the both of them hugging as she hid behind the bushes, when she saw Sakura, she held on Sakura's mouth. As Tenten asked her when did this happen, as Sakura told her what she saw the other morning. For the rest of the trip, Tenten was quiet, but she listened to her order the same way, but she was quiet. As Naruto knew that something was wrong, but now was not time as he got there. As Sakura managed to fix Kankuro and made a few antidotes as well. So with that, they made their way. As Kankuro was able to give them as piece of cloth from the Akatsuki, as Kakashi used his dog to trap them. It took some time, and when they finally made it and got through the barrier, Gaara was already dead, lying on the ground. As Naruto was furious, as he quickly rushed over there, surprising them by his speed, knocking the both of them away. As he gave Gaara's body to Kakashi, and told Kakashi to run with it. As Naruto was leader of his mission as he headed off. As Tenten, Sakura, and Chio stayed behind, as they faced off against saucers, Naruto chased off against Deidara, as Deidara was moving as fast as he could. But Naruto was just that much faster. Naruto hit him straight off the bird. Naruto started to go crazy. His mind started to get blurry, his vision started to get hazy. All he was seeing was red. As he attacked and lashed out, ripping Deidara to shreds. As Naruto snapped out of the haze that he was in as he realized what happened, the seal was getting weaker, and his darker half was getting loose. As Temari was shocked when Naruto arrived there, Chio as well, and Tenten and Sakura looking a bit bruised up, but they managed to defeat Sorcery. As Temari started to cry and punched Naruto's chest, but Naruto knew that she was letting out all of her grief, so he just stood there. Until Chio decided to make the ultimate sacrifice. As she used her life, she told Naruto that him and Gaara are the future for this world, and she's counting on them because the era has changed, and to risk her life, to give her life to make something better. It would do her some well. As she died after giving her life, as Gaara woke up and saw what was going on, as he had a moment of silence for Lady Chio and her sacrifice. So yeah guys, so it's basically that's what I thought. You guys can switch across the place and check out for yourself. So what do you say we begin this new episode? It was late at night, or perhaps early in the morning, and Naruto couldn't sleep. He was lying down in a bed inside the hotel they had been given. Outside of his window, the sounds of the silent citizens as a party was still going on. Naruto had partaken in that party as well, but after several hours, he decided to call it a night. He was tired from the rescue mission, as he was still also concerned what happened when he went up against Deidara. The anger he had felt at that time was the same anger that his other self felt when they had fought. He would need to speak to Jiraiya about this. As Naruto then heard a knock. Thinking that it was Kakashi, he made his way as he opened to see Temari. Naruto was cut off, as she claimed his lips in a rather passionate kiss. Before he knew what was happening, she pushed him right back on the bed, as she started kissing him even more, as her hands already worked their way under his shirt. Temari, he said, stopping her. Hold on. As Temari stopped, as she sit up, as she was sitting right on his waist. What's wrong? Well, I was just... What brought this on, said Naruto. This is a thank you, she said. You know that I didn't do this for gratitude, right? Said Naruto. Gaara is my friend. I know, she said. But even though you didn't rescue my little brother for such a petty reason, I still want to give you my thanks, she said. Naruto relaxed at her words as he placed his hands on her hips. So long as it was a decision she had made for herself, he would not be against it. As long as this was what she wanted, he wouldn't deny her. As Temari came down back and cleaned his lips. Meanwhile, as Tenten was walking down the hallway, she wanted to see Naruto like how the mission was over now, and after hearing Chio words, she needed to speak with him. The party was still going on outside, as Sakura and Kakashi were still out there. Those two were quite popular, seeing that Sakura was the one that saved Kankuro when he was poisoned, and the girls wanted to see what was under Kakashi's mask. He was quite popular with them. As she realized that she needed to get even stronger, because during the whole thing she really didn't participate that much, as Sakura was the one that healed Kankuro, and Naruto went off on his own to take care of Deidara, and Sakura was the one to defeat Sasori as well, with the help of Chio. The biggest problem is she didn't know how she could get stronger. Her kunai shuriken throwing was already 10 for 10. It wasn't possible to have an accuracy rating that was any better, as she didn't want to remain the girl that could only provide backup. As she reached a hall ahead, a loud noise caused her to freeze. It was a moan that echoed down the hallway, and it sounded rather sexual. She didn't know who had made that noise, but she ignored it and made her way. As she made her way, it got louder, as her heart skipped a beat when she stopped at Naruto's door, as she couldn't believe it. They were coming from his room. As she stepped up to the door and opened it a crack bit and looked inside, her heart stopped as she saw Naruto and Temari having sex. Before she could get too caught up in what she was seeing, she jerked back and placed a hand over her mouth as tears came into her eyes. As her heart felt like that dropped right into her feet. Unable to stay there for any longer, she ran away. Time skip the next morning as Naruto stood at the gates alongside Sakura, Kakashi and Tenten. Seeing them off was Gaara, Temari, Kankuro and Baki. As Naruto had woken up this morning to discover Kakashi giggling as Temari was still in his bed, as Kakashi was grilling him on the relationship. He just wanted to know, as Kakashi was still staring at him to this moment with knowing smirk under his mask, while Tenten seriously avoided his gaze. Every time he felt her eyes on him, he looked her way, but she didn't turn her head looking somewhere else. I am not sure what's going on with her, but I should find some time to sit down and talk with her. But that will have to wait until they get back in Konoha after filing their mission report. Since Naruto was placed in charge of this mission, that was his task. Are you sure you don't want to stay for a while longer to recuperate? Asked Gaara. Despite having a tail beast pulled out of him, he looked quite normal. As Naruto chatted up to Lady Chio's sacrificial reincarnation jutsu. Yeah, said Naruto. We already spent the night here when we should have headed out. And we need to deliver our report to Tsunade-sama, Sakura added. Speaking of, I have already sent a preliminary report to Takamaru, said Baki. I appreciate that, said Naruto, as he then turned back to Gaara. Anyway, I'll see you around. Maybe I'll be sent here during the Chunin exams and you and I can grab a drink. I would like that, said Gaara. As Gaara held out his hand, as Naruto took it and shook it. As Kakashi's eyes smiled, and Sakura smiled as well. Tenten was still ignoring him, but even she was warmed by the friendship that they showed. The group was preparing to leave, but Naruto said Temari. As Naruto turned yet, but before he could fully answer, she pulled him into a kiss. As she then stepped back. That was a good luck kiss for your journey home, she said, as she gave him a wink. If you say so. But I think it's just something you have to remember me on those lonely nights without me, he said. You wish, he said, as everyone is looking at them with different expression. As Kankuro was looking like he was ready to shoot a brick. As Gaara seemed rather calm at the relationship between the two of them. As Baki was rubbing his eyes to see if this was real or genjutsu. As Kakashi was giggling. As Sakura had a surprised look on her face. And Tenten was looking away. Ah, I see, said Naruto. So that's the problem, he said, looking at Tenten. Yes, he really did need to speak with her soon. After that was over, the group left. While there was no need to rush, no one wanted to remain in that desert. I had no idea my pupil was such a lady killer, said Kakashi. Can it, sensei, said Naruto. There's gonna be quite a few girls in Konoha who's gonna be disappointed. Are you planning to tease me the whole way here, Naruto asked. Only until we reach Konoha. As Naruto sighed. Time skip, Kumo. As Orochimaru disguised as a middle-aged man with dark skin and blonde hair, walked towards the steep path that leads to Kumo's main gate. There were 3 others behind him. Their long grey top crinkled as they moved. It was gathered at their waist. They were wearing a white, one-strap flat jacket, and their legs had shin guards that clicked as they moved. None of them spoke as they walked up towards the main gate. Returning from a mission, one of the guards said at the gate, as he handed the man a clipboard. "Sign here, please." "Of course." As Orochimaru grabbed it and signed it with a made-up name, neither guards realized that his eyes, black, with a red pattern inside, were spinning. The guard looked at the name and nodded and set the clipboard inside. "Good work, and welcome back." "Thank you," he said. As the 4 of them made their way inside, as Orochimaru gazed at the many mountains, a lot of the mountains had structure built into them. As they walked along, this trio behind him started to speak. "That was a lot easier than I expected. For a country that pride themselves on their military, they have fallen security," the other one said. I can't believe this country has survived for as long as it has." Now, said Orochimaru. "Do not speak like that. In this case, it is their fault. Well, they do not recognize us as a threat. Like Konoha, Kumo had a unique barrier that detected hostile chakra signature. But this one wasn't as sophisticated or powerful as the one was in Konoha. Because Kumo relied on their military strength, they didn't really have a strong Fuinjutsu style after all. Even their method of sealing bijus were unstable. As Orochimaru was actually surprised later Jinchuriki for the 8 Tails was a perfect host. "What are we gonna do now?" asked one of the males behind him. "Now," Orochimaru said that chuckle. "We're gonna see the Raikage, of course." To reach the office, they had to go through a series of checkpoints. Each checkpoint was manned by a pair of Jonin 11 ninja. Unlike Konoha, where anyone could just pop inside the Hokage's office, authorization towards the Raikage's office had to be granted by a special permission. Normally, they would have never been able to reach Raikage's office. Normally. "I need to see your papers," one of the guards said, as Orochimaru and his 3 ninjas walked up to the first checkpoint. "Very well," he said with a smile, as a red star in his black eye started to spin. As he held out a sheet of blank papers to the 2 guards. "Here you are." The guards looked them over as they didn't find anything wrong with them. "You are free to proceed." "You have my thanks," Orochimaru said, chuckling in his mind, as Orochimaru bypassed through every level of security with blank papers, but everyone who looked at them thought they were security papers. Of course, they could have used a chakra examination to see if the papers were false. However, not a single ninja who saw them thought about that. The idea that they might be fake didn't occur to them. "Those eyes of yours are sure are something," said Ishide. As Ishide and his group, Orochimaru was the one that had found them after they had fled from the country after facing off against Naruto, and they were now his subordinates. Orochimaru's smile widened. "Why do you think these eyes are so great?" "The ability to see chakra as it's manipulated, the ability to analyze and copy each attack, the ability to cast genjutsu that not even a Kage could see through easily. There's a reason I wanted these eyes for myself." "I wonder though, would you like to try and claim these eyes for yourself?" Orochimaru asked, looking at Ishide. "No thanks," Ishide said. "I'm smart enough to know that I don't stand a chance against you." As a female, Kurabana leaned into them as she placed a hand on her mouth. "Am I the only one frightened by this man?" "You are not," said Konko, his giant frame hidden behind a transformation of his own. "Glad to know it's not just me," she said. Chuckling to himself, Orochimaru walked inside the Raikage's office. Of course, they only entered the lobby first. A dark-skinned woman then came forward. She paused upon seeing them. "Do you have business with the Raikage?" Orochimaru smiled as his star within his pupils spin once again. "I do. I have some urgent business that I must speak to him about. If you'd be so kind to take me to him, I would really appreciate it." "Of course. Right this way, sir," she said, as she made her way and knocked on the door before entering, as Orochimaru and his entourage followed. Beyond the door was the man himself, as he was sitting in his chair. "Mabe," Ace said. "Who are these people?" As Mabe tilted her head. "You do not know them? They said that they had something urgent to talk to you about." As Orochimaru saw the Raikage muscles stiffen, he was on guard already. Perhaps he already suspected something was off. It didn't matter though. "Greetings, Raikage," said Orochimaru. "This will be over quickly anyway," as he knelt before Kumo's most powerful ninja, playing his role. "I came to speak to you about something very important." Before Orochimaru could activate his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, the Raikage vanished from his couch. Orochimaru only received a second warning before the man smashed into the place where he was. But, much like a certain shinobi that was now dead, Orochimaru burst into a flock of crows. The crows flew around the room before reassembling themselves back into Orochimaru. Those eyes, the Raikage said as he looked at Orochimaru's Sharingan. An Uchiha? No, you just have the eyes of one. As Ishide, Kanko, Karabana, they all surrounded him. Who are you? You don't need to know that, Orochimaru said with a smile. As Mabe walked behind the Raikage and pulled out a blade. After all, puppets don't need to know who's pulling their strings. Thanks to a genjutsu that he placed on the Raikage, when the man looked in his eyes, he was too slow to respond when Mabe stabbed her blade covered in lightning right into his back. The man grunted as lightning coursed through him. He probably could have negated, but thanks to another genjutsu by Orochimaru, the thought never occurred. Now, said Orochimaru, as the three that he brought held the Raikage down. Normally, he was strong enough to tear himself free in seconds, but with the current going through his body, he wasn't. As Mabe grabbed him by the hair and forced him to look at Orochimaru, as she was under the influence of the Sharingan. Time for you to say goodnight. Tsukuyomi, said Orochimaru. Time skip. Despite the beautiful day, Naruto couldn't help but feel trouble. 2 weeks has passed since his mission to rescue Gaara. His time had been spent to go on easy missions to earn money. The Kyuubi had still refused to talk to him, but that wasn't the problem. He has been dealing with that for a long time now. The issue that he ran into was similar, but at the same time different. You do know that it's rude to ignore a girl when you take her on a date, do you? Said Yujito, snapping Naruto out of his trance. You're right, he said, giving her a smile. I'm sorry for a space note like that, he said. It seems like you have something serious in your mind, she said. Would you like to tell me about it, she asked. Maybe having someone else's perspective can solve the problem that you're having. As the two of them were sitting on a blanket in Training Field 7 with a picnic. She had just returned from a mission 2 days ago, as Naruto had caught up with her and asked her if she would have lunch with him to catch up, which led to their current position. He would have loved to spend time with her like this, but with his thoughts so preoccupied, it was hard to just bask in her beauty right now. Another perspective might help, said Naruto. Tenten hasn't been talking to me since our mission to rescue Gaara. She normally spends at least 2 days manning her father's store, but I've gone there for the past week and realized she wasn't around at all. At first, I thought she was going on missions, but then I found Rock Lee training at one of the training grounds and I asked him if he saw her. The response he gave me was a lot colder than I see him give another person before, ever. Neji was also the same way. And that was really confusing to Naruto because neither of them had been cold to him. Well, Neji had been when he had that stick stuck up his ass, but Lee, that was different. But they had become friends, him and Neji. So for the both of them to behave this way, as he couldn't understand why they were acting like this now. This is just a hunch, Yujito. But do you think it might have something to do with how you slept with Temari? I don't see how me sleeping with... Oh, said Naruto, as he felt like he was slapped right in the face. She saw us, didn't she? Yes, she did. As Naruto realized the situation he was in, Tenten had seen them doing it. So that was the reason for the cold glares Lee and Neji was giving them. But it wasn't like their relationship was a secret. Everyone in the sand knew about it and he never tried to hide from Tenten. Well, he had just returned from a 2-year training trip with Jiraiya, and his relationship with Temari had only progressed after he and Jiraiya left Konoha. Of course she would know about it, of course she would feel angry, of course she would feel betrayed and hurt when she found out the way she did. I should have said something, Naruto thought, as he hadn't said anything because the idea never crossed his mind. What do you think, he asked. About me and Temari, I mean. Well, I can't say I was too pleased when I found out, but at the same time I'm a bit more open-minded when it comes to sex. Tenten's a very pure girl in this regard. I doubt that she has ever gone on a mission to seduce assassination target, and she's not the type who use sex as stress relief. Hey, I'm not like that either, said Naruto. I know, but because of your unique circumstances, you don't wish to have a proper relationship with someone else. If you mean by proper relationship, like ones that end with marriage or children, no, I don't. At the same time, I do want to have something, even if it's not marriage, even if it doesn't end a big family. I want to have something, he said. You mean like forming strong bonds with women, said Yujito with a grin. I thought that would be a given, he said. But yeah, I guess I should find Tenten and do my best to explain myself, huh? I recommend waiting a bit, said Yujito. Tenten's feelings are still very much together right now. I'm sure that they will only get worse if you try to push her. But wouldn't it be better to explain myself quickly? I heard that leaving problems like this would cause him to fester over time. Yes, but trying to do it too quickly would result in that fester, as you called it, to accelerate and become even worse, said Yujito. I recommend waiting for at least another week or two. Give her some time to calm down and then confront her. If he was being honest, he would have preferred to confront her right now and hash it out. He was a man of action after all. He hated just sitting down while there was a problem right in front of him. At the same time, he trusted Yujito in his manners. She was not only someone he cherished as a person, she was also a woman like Tenten. And so her advice was great. I will follow your advice then, said Naruto. Good, said Yujito. And now that I help you with your problem, no more sad faces, no more staring off into space. Unlike Tenten, I do not care who you have slept with. Right now you're mine, and mine alone. I can't have you thinking about other girls while we're on a date. I guess you're right, Naruto said. I'm all yours. All mine, you say. In that case, as she crawled over to him and lay her head on his lap. In payment of my services, you're going to feed me, she said. Such a demanding Nico, Naruto said that grin. As he reached out towards his bento box and started to feed her. Time skip. A week later, Yujito was gone. She left after a few days after they date, saying that she was recalled to Kumo. No explanation why though. But orders are orders, and it wasn't that strange for her to return. As Naruto was currently inside Hokage's office to receive a mission, he was early. His team hadn't been there yet, so it was currently him, Shizune, and Tsunade. Where are they? Naruto said as he frowned and tapped his foot against the floor. Tsunade and Shizune had an amused look on their faces. You do realize you're almost an hour early, right? Said Tsunade as she leaned back in her chair. If you didn't want to wait, you shouldn't have come so early. Yeah, you have a point, said Naruto. As he didn't get much sleep last night, he was planning to talk to Tenten today. But that plan had been thrown through the window. You seem restless, said Shizune. Have you been sleeping well? Well, for the most part, said Naruto, as he rubbed the back of his neck. As the both of them shared another glance, as Naruto wondered what kind of conversation they were having with those looks. But he was too preoccupied right now thinking to let himself be bothered by that. It wouldn't be that you're having some troubles in paradise, would you? Asked Nadia as she leaned forward. Is it that obvious, Naruto asked. Brat, I have been around the block more times than you can count, said Tsunade. Well, given how old you are, that does surprise me, said Naruto as he had to duck the paperweight that came at his head. You better watch yourself, mention my age again, and I'll punch you through the wall. Yeah, said Naruto. Anyway, said Tsunade. Despite I was only in love once, I know plenty about relationship between a man and a woman. So you say, said Shizune. As Tsunade glared at her, making her quiet down. Given who you are, it's not that hard to figure out what the problem is, said Tsunade. As Naruto could have figured that Jiraiya had told Tsunade he had been with two women outside of his training trip, as he could just see Jiraiya bragging towards Tsunade. He sighed when he heard the door open, as he saw Tenten, Choji, and Ino. As she turned her face the moment she saw him. Still angry, I see, he thought. Yo, Naruto, said Choji. I'm guessing you're the Jonin in charge of his mission. That's right, Naruto said with a grin. I'm the one that's gonna be leading you guys. This should be interesting, said Ino as she placed her hands on her hips. I'm curious to see you in charge of a mission, how that will go. I hope that means you have confidence in my abilities, said Naruto. That remains to be seen. So I gotta prove myself, huh? Well, fine. I'll show you what I can do. You better, she said. While Naruto spoke with Choji and Ino, as Tenten kept to herself. But Naruto knew that this was his chance as he glanced over at her, as Tsunade gathered them with a cough. As everyone straightened, as Tenten moved behind Naruto, reluctantly. We've received a request from Netsuko Sado, said Tsunade. They're a ninja village whose family are organized through matrilineality. Naruto, I believe you have some experience with them. Naruto nodded. Jiraiya and I actually stayed there a few months in your training. I am sure training isn't all you did, said Tsunade, as she didn't give him a chance to speak before she spoke again. They're having a problem with the missing ninja who arrived in the area and attacked their village. We receive a report that a large number of their kunoichi has been killed and captured. Their village population has been reduced by about 40%, leaving them in dire straits. If they are suffering casualties like that, whoever attacked them must be incredibly powerful. Most of the kunoichis there from Netsuko Sado was incredibly powerful. Tsunade nodded. The person who attacked them is a missing nin, going by the name Akuma. Very little is known about him. We're not even sure what village he's from or Akuma's real name. However, we do know that he was the one responsible for the complete destruction of a hidden village several years ago. As Naruto did know of Akuma, but there wasn't any information outside of what Tsunade had just said. Nothing was known about his fighting style or where he came from. All the bingo book had was a profile picture. Your mission is to travel there and help the Netsuko village take down this missing ninja, said Tsunade. Yes, Tsunade-sama, the four of them said. The mission was an A rank, as Naruto told Choji and Ino to grab supplies for 2 weeks. Then he'd travel with Tenten towards her shop so he could grab the equipment for the mission. Tenten barely spoke to him, and she only spoke when it was necessary, and her voice was cold. You realize that staying mad like this and scowling all the time is going to give you premature wrinkles, right? I am not scowling, said Tenten. You are, said Naruto. I am done with this conversation, she said. Well, I am not, said Naruto. as they were in the middle of her store traveling down one of the aisles. As Naruto created a wall of clones and held her in because there was numerous weapons around, so he couldn't make her stop right at the wall as he didn't want her to get hurt. "What are you doing?" she said as he was incredibly close to her. Her eyes was glaring at him but her cheeks were red. "Let me go this instant." "Not until you talk to me." "I don't think there's anything to talk about," she said. "Well, I think there is. I get it, you're upset with me because I slept with Temari." "I don't care if you slept with anyone," she said. "Then why are you ignoring me?" "Well, I just don't like lying douchebags." "You're jealous of Temari, Naruto asks. "I'm not, you are." "Not one bit," she said. "Just admit it," said Naruto, as their conversation go back and front, with her saying no and him saying yes. "Alright, fine," she said. "You want the truth?" "Yes. I'm jealous of Temari," she finally snapped. "I hate that you slept with her. I thought that we had something special that I meant more to you, but I see now that you never felt the way about me that I did about you. And probably there's another kunai in your pouch." "Do you really believe that?" Naruto asks, as she looked into his eyes, as she started to become uncertain the way he was just looking at her. Yes, I do," she said, holding her gaze, as Naruto just stood there. Suddenly, the clones then poofed away. "I see," he said. "If that is how you feel, then there's really nothing I can do. However, you should know something, Tenten. I cannot give you or anyone else a normal relationship. You already know I'm not human anymore. I don't have the ability to start a family or grow old with you. But you should know, just because I can't give you a normal relationship, that doesn't mean I don't love you. I will understand if I can't be with you. I will accept it. But don't ever think that my feelings for you are weak, or what we have is not special to me. You are someone that can never be replaced. You're precious to me." As a silence then stretched out everywhere. "I am not sure I can believe that," she finally said. "I guess not," he said, as he smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes, as Tenten saw it. After their argument ended, he bought supplies. And then they met up with Ino and Choji at the south gate, as Ino noticed that something was wrong between them. "What funeral did you two just come from?" "No funeral, I'm afraid," Naruto said, a fake smile. "Anyway, do you two have everything that you need?" "Yep," said Ino. "It's all in here." She patted the pouch. As Naruto turned, "Choji?" "I'm good," Choji said. "Right then, let's go." Because he was in charge, he was the one that signed them out at the gate. And with that, they left the village. As it was less than a day, because Netsuko Sado wasn't that far, Tenten did not speak much during this time, save for when Ino spoke to her. Since there was nothing more Naruto could say, already saying what he had, he left her to her own devices and spoke to Choji, as they finally reached a point where he could see the village. "So that's it, said Ino, as he had a hand over her head, using as a visor to keep the sun up to her eyes. "Yeah, that's Netsuko Sado," said Naruto, as he was up on top of 3 steep hills that were in a line, with a gorge between them. As he continued to admire the village, a bright light flared into existence on the 3rd hill, as a boom went off, the rumbling of an explosion. Naruto narrowed his eyes as several chunks of rocks were blasted away from the hill. "That looks like it was from an explosive Naruto or jutsu," Naruto said. "Look," said Ino, "the village is burning." Smoke rose from the village, as one of the towers break down from an explosion. "Let's move," he said, as he took off with tremendous speed. Meanwhile, Shizuka looked around, as there was chaos everywhere. Explosions, clashing of swords could be heard. As she was being attacked, she slicked around the sword, as she twisted her body and slammed her wind-covered fist right into the man's torso, as the force of her attack liquidized the man's insides, killing him instantly. She then spun around and blocked the other attacks from a sword, as she knocked the man's blade away, as she then jabbed the man all over his body before jumping up and smashed a brutal kick into his neck, snapping it. Seeing that her leg was coated in wind chakra with so much force, the head snapped back, as she spun around and dodged another blow, as she thrust her hand forward covered in wind chakra, striking the man right in his forehead, as the man froze for a second before she struck him all over his chest. The man collapsed down as blood exploded out of his nose and his eyes. More than half dozen thugs were still coming at her. They were further away, but they will be here soon, as she brought out several kunais and held them, before throwing them all with wind chakra with pinpoint accuracy. Her kunai never missed their mark, slaughtering all of her opponents. Lady Shizuka said a voice, as she turned, as a person dropped from the sky landed and crouched before her, as she had short brown hair and she had on red lipstick, a lot of it, as she wasn't wearing her usual mesh armor, as her clothes was torn. The burns on her body let Shizuka believe that the armor was destroyed. "Tokiwa, is that them?" "It is, Lady Shizuka. We have currently evacuated all the civilians to the largest structures. We're doing our best to push them back, but fortunately, it looks like Akumo is not with them this time." "Thank the gods for a small miracle," Shizuka said. "Come, let us push these invaders back." Yes, Lady Shizuka, said Tokiwa, as they joined the other kunoichi at their village in the fight. The world around them became one of blood and dying screams as they fought to kill the people who were trying to invade and destroy their home. As she and her attendant fought their ways through numerous enemies, slicing and cutting them down. But there was more enemies this time than last time, a lot more. As her people started to get overwhelmed, to her left a woman got run down. They didn't kill her though. One of them jammed something to her thigh that caused her to collapse. The group then lifted her up and started to carry her away. Stop, scum! As Shizuka, Tokiwa, and the other girls tried their best to stop the girl from being taken, but there was a literal wall between them. It wasn't long before the group disappeared with their kunoichi, and more men were pouring in from all sides. As Shizuka was pissed now as she used one of her most powerful jutsu to wipe out a large group of them. Yet, no matter how many she killed, a large group would take their place. Before she knew, the only one remaining was Tokiwa and a handful of ninjas. As Shizuka refused to give up, as the man started closing around her. If this was to be the end, she would take all of them down with her. Multi Shuriken Jutsu. As many poof went off. As hundreds of figures came down and started to fight off the invaders. As they crashed into the bandits like a tidal wave, decimating the army that was overrunning them. As Shizuka felt hope, as she recognized who those people were. That's Naruto. Yes, it was dozens of Naruto clones that were coming to their aid. And they weren't alone, with them were two other kunoichi. As a girl that made hand style and stopped her enemies, and then a man in red smashed into them. The last one's another kunoichi, as she was tossing kunais and shurikens at a pace that not even Shizuka could keep up with. The shinobis of the leaf are here to aid us. Let us push these monsters back to Shizuka. As her fellow kunoichis got a renewed zeal as they started fighting against the bandits. As Shizuka found herself in the center of this brawl, she smashed into her enemies with in hands, fists, and feet, throwing all of them away like ragdolls. As she watched as his clones get pop around her. If they were here, that means the real one was here somewhere as well. As Shizuka turned to see, one of Naruto rammed a Rasengan into one of the bandits' chests, ripping through the man's armor and obliterating the man. As he ran up to her, this must be the real one, she thought. Naruto, she said, I'm so glad to see you. As Naruto smiled at her, we'll talk later. For now, let's drive these assholes back. Right, she said. The bandits' number might have made them formidable, but Naruto couldn't match those numbers, and taking out the numbers, they were nothing, so they didn't last for much longer. Before long, the enemies tried to flee, but they would not let them leave. With the battle now ending, Shizuka was able to relax. The battle did not move past the two hills that her village was on, so they did not breach the inner sanctuary. But the attack was so sudden, many of her people lay dead in the streets. As a sting in her eyes, she felt it hard. Shizuka said Naruto as he came up as he placed a hand on her shoulder. She turned to him and almost allowed herself to fall to weakness, but no, it's not time to be weak. Right now she needs to be strong. I'm glad that you're here, she said. Sorry that I couldn't arrive sooner. She shook her head no. You could have not known that this would happen. You arrived here even faster than I thought you would, thank you. Yeah, well, and I heard that you were in trouble. I want to get here as fast as possible. Naruto scratched the back of his neck, and that finally made her crack a small smile. Even in a situation like this, he still remained the same, and that reassured her that everything would be alright. Yes, with Naruto by her side, perhaps she could help her people. Ahem, said the voice. As Shizuka turned to see the blonde and the brunette looking at them, as the blonde was smiling, while the other one seemed rather grumpy. Who is this, Naruto Ino asked, a friend of yours? Or is she something more? As Shizuka saw where this girl was going towards their relationship, but now wasn't the time to feel embarrassed or feel flustered, as she gave the ninja a small bow. Thank you for coming all this way, my name is Shizuka. I am the leader of this village, the one who requested help from Konoha. Wait, really? But you're so young, said Ino. I feel to see you my age make me unfit to be a leader, said Shizuka. Well, I guess it doesn't. I'm just surprised. Shizuka could understand where the girl was coming from, but no, it was not time to indulge her, as she made Naruto and Squatch follow her. As they passed a lot of injured women, some of them were kunoichis that were injured in the attack, but managed to retreat before they were taken hostage. But most of them were civilians who were caught up in the fight. A little girl sat on the ground crying as a medic wrapped bandage around her bleeding head. Everywhere Shizuka looked, her people were suffering. It broke her heart. Ino, said Naruto, please help administer first aid to these people. The ones with the grave injuries get top priority, he said. On it, said Ino. As she rushed off to help the nearest person, as Shizuka sent him a questioning look, Ino is trained to become a medical ninja, said Naruto. She's not as talented as Sakura Haruno, my original teammate, but she's very skilled. I'm sure that she'll be able to help heal everyone here. Thank you, Shizuka said, bowing her head. As Shizuka led them into a room, with a table in the center with numerous pillows around it for people to sit on. as she sat down at the head of the table while Naruto and others sit down as well. As Naruto introduced Choji and Tenten. Shizuka didn't know why, but this girl called Tenten looked at her like she didn't trust her for some reason. She just had this suspicious look in her eyes, and Shizuka didn't know why she was giving her that look. However, she ignored it and greeted the both of them kindly. I was told that you were having trouble with a missing ninja named Akuma, said Naruto. We weren't expecting to find an army of bandits attacking you. Yes, I'm sorry. Please allow me to inform you about the recent developments that have taken place. It is true, the one who first attacked us was Akuma. He attacked our village at Warren and decimated our forces. We fought back and even managed to injure him before he retreated. But his attack was so sudden that many of our Kunoichis were unable to fight after their injury. That was when we sent a request to Konoha. It sounds like something changed after you sent a request, Choji said. As Shizuka nodded. A few days after the request was sent, Akuma came back and he attacked again. But this time, it was with a group of bandits and we fought them off. Tokyo and I forced Akuma into a standstill. But while we were distracted, the bandits that attacked our village made off with several Kunoichi. That is when we realized they were not after our life, but our bodies, she said. I can only assume that they plan on selling us as slaves. Do you know who's responsible for this? Asked Tenten. Surely, these bandits aren't working on their own. Most bandits use rusty and dull weapons. The one those guys were using was high quality. They must have a powerful backer. Sadly, we do not know anything else than what I just told you. As Shizuka took a deep breath, as she was also feeling powerless right now. I thought about sending some of my Kunoichi to see if we could gather some intelligence, but I understand, said Naruto. Your Kunoichi are what these people are after. If you had sent them out and they were captured, you would be in worse shape than you are now. That is correct, she said, closing her eyes. We can discuss what to do later though, she said, opening her eyes. I'm sure everyone is exhausted from the battle and traveling all this way for you guys. Please allow me to show you your room, she said. Time skip. Tenten tossed and turned as she was unable to find a good position to sleep in. Well, it wasn't the room. She and Ino had been given a comfortable room with 2 beds, and the bed were quite soft and warm as well. And it wasn't the circumstances. Sure, what happened when they arrived was horrible, but she was a ninja and she saw far worse. As Ino was sleeping, most of her body covered up by the blanket, as Tenten made her way outside, as she was in a shirt and her underwear, as she kept a set of kunai with her just in case. She didn't know where she was going, wandering the halls with no real destination in mind. As the thought came to her mind that Naruto stay in this place, in his training. As that thought sent chills down her spine. She didn't like the idea of Naruto staying in this all-female village. Given what she saw with Temar, she was sure that Naruto would... No, she shook her head. He might have slept with Temar, but he wasn't the kind of guy that would cheat on someone like that. She could accept that he didn't see her in a romantic way. It would hurt her, but she could do it. However, in nothing else, she believed that he was the kind of guy to not cheat on a girl if they were dating. Yet even as these thoughts went through her mind, she caught someone walking through the hallway further down, as she couldn't really tell who it was. So she decided to follow. As she followed after the shadowy figure, it didn't take her long to figure out who it was. It was Shizuka, as she was in a white gown, underwear underneath, as the gown was see-through. Where is she? No, it couldn't be, thought Tenten. As Tenten watched Shizuka wander across the door and knock. As Tenten realized this was the door to Naruto's room. Flashback to earlier. The group had been given a room to share. Well, Tenten and Ino did. As, when Ino questioned why was that, Shizuka stated that as a leader, Naruto had a room to himself. And said that it wasn't appropriate for the girls to be sleeping in the same room as a boy. So that's why she gave Choji his own room as well. As Ino accepted that with a pout. As we now have Naruto, as he was lying down in his bed. As he was thinking about Tenten and the Kyuubi, wondering if he could ever fix a relationship between them, when he heard a knock on his door. As he got up, as he opened the door and found Shizuka standing before him. Shizuka, he said. What's up? Couldn't sleep? She shook her head. As Naruto looked down, as he saw, he could see right through the fabric that she was wearing. Do you mind if I come in? Not at all, he said, as she made her way straight over to the bed. As Naruto slowly shut the door, as she sat down. I'm guessing that you're here for something other than talking, Naruto said. She smiled and blushed at the same time. Am I that obvious, she asked. You never wear nightwear like that, said Naruto. People can change, he said. They can, but there's no point of wearing that if you're not trying to show off to someone, right? I guess, she said, as Naruto wandered over to the bed and sat down beside her, as she scooted over a bit, as he was only wearing a boxer shorts. It's been a long time, hasn't it, she said. I mean, since the last time you and I saw each other. About 6 months, Naruto said. You've become a lot stronger since the last time I saw you. Well, if I was stronger, my Kunoichis wouldn't have been kidnapped like that. I would have been able to protect them. You're only one person. He didn't want to sound nonchalant, but she needed to know the facts. One person can't protect an entire village from an army. You've done everything that you can. You even fought Akuma to a standstill, right? He's a S-rank shinobi. The fact that you can force him to retreat is impressive. I had help, she said. It doesn't change how impressive it is, he said. Do you really think so? She asked. I do. As Naruto could see that her eyes had changed. When the first time they met, her eyes were glassy and cold, but now they are much more open and sweet and kind, even if it's an impressive defeat on its own. I wish I could have done something to stop my people from being kidnapped, she said. As someone who once tried to become Hokage, Naruto could understand how she felt, as her duty to protect her people, and watch them get kidnapped like that, and to know that they were going to be sold as slaves. It must be hard on her. As he scooted closer to comfort her, he placed a hand on her thigh. We still have time to rescue them. Kunoichis are hard to sell in the slave market because they're defiant. They require a lot more effort to break and train. I imagine that it will be a month or two before any of them would be considered sellable. So we still have time, Naruto said. He has busted up so many slave markets that he knew all kind of information about them. Thank you, Naruto, she said. I am glad I could help reassure you. But we both know that is why you came here, he said. As she started to blush even more, as his hands started to move. If you really just wanted me to reassure you, you wouldn't have come to me just like this, right? As she stuttered a bit. As he started to nibble on her ear, a gasp escaped her mouth. What do you want, Shizuka? He asked. I want you, she said. As Naruto started to kiss her. I missed you so much, she said. I missed you as well, said Naruto, as he started to trail kisses up and down, before he came up as both of them share a passionate kiss. Moments later, little did they know they were being watched. Tenten, she had followed Shizuka here, and she just couldn't look away. Despite her want to leave, she just couldn't move, as she was looking through a crack in the door. As she came, and she heard the conversation that was going on until she started to hear rather strange sounds. So she cracked open the door, just a tiny bit, and peeked inside to see the both of them having sex. It was just like when him and Temari was going at it. Tenten wanted to run away like she did back in the sand, but she didn't. As she watched the both of them, her own body became hot, overwhelmingly so, as she refused to look away, placing a hand over her mouth so she wouldn't say anything. She didn't know why, but her body seemed to be moving on her own, as her hand went down as she pleasured herself watching the both of them. Despite of her shame doing this, she didn't stop, she just kept on going. But after she was finished, she left, as the both of them went at it again, as she made her way back to the room where she and Ino shared. She crawled underneath the covers, thinking about what she just did. The image of Naruto and Shizuka, and now the image of Naruto and Temari, kept on replaying over and over in her mind. Time skip, Akuma sit on the bed that was given to him by his employer, his feet on the ground, a rustling behind him, let him know that bed warmers were moving in their sleep, as behind him was a pair of naked bodies. The two behind him were slaves his employer had given him them to do with him as he pleased. They were nothing special, girls that were just sold off, and he didn't really care about that, as he wasn't wearing anything like them. But unlike their flourished skin that was completely clean, his was covered in scars, several on his shoulders, his back, and his chest as well. And there were several ugly bruises on him right now, and they were new. He got them in his fight with that Kunoichi and our attendant. They didn't hurt, in fact he didn't feel them. But to see that he got injured had left an impact on him. But a smile came at his lips. It's good to see there are still people that can put up a fight. As he then went to put on some underwear and he put on some pants, leaving his chest exposed. Leaving the room, Akuma went down the hallway. Turned a corner, he went downstairs as he entered a room. It looked like a medical facility combined with a prison. But instead of medical equipment, what these rooms contains was table with powerful straps that not even a strong high-level ninja could break. There were also cages on the far side, as inside the cages there was women, lot of them. Most of these women were young, clearly in their late teens or mid-20s, and most of them were even younger. None of them had clothing on, as they huddled against the cages, fighting off the shame that they felt being so exposed. This was a standard tactic used to break slaves. Deeper in the room were several people, a man and a woman. They stood in front of a table as a woman was strapped down to it. Like the other, she was naked as well. Every so often she would squirm or worm, as the woman who was standing above her injected something to her. Mind-breaking drugs. As you could see, judging from her body, that she was a kunoichi. Despite being injected, she glared at the both of them, as there was a ball gag in her mouth, so she couldn't say anything. She's resisting the drugs quite well, the woman said. That's a kunoichi for you, I guess. I heard the kunoichis from Nitsuko Sado are cut above the rest. How long will it take to break her, the man said. Longer than it has anyone else, the woman said as she set the syringe down. I suspect that it will take pumping her body full of drugs for a month before she's been ready to soul. The man frowned. I was hoping that it would take less time. We could do it in less time, but that would require physically breaking them, which you want to avoid, right? The woman shrugged. Damaging such valuable merchandise would hurt her business, won't it? The two in front of Akumo was rather a disgusting individual. The man was short and he had frizzy hair, as he wore a crisp and clean business suit, as Akumo didn't really take him seriously. His partner was even creepier with a tall, long body that reminded him of a twig, bulging grey eyes, and stringy hair that looked like a worm crawling out of her skull, as she had on a long white coat, black pants, and black shirt underneath. She looked like a mad scientist. Shaito, said Akumo. The man and woman turned. Akumo, the man said, as his name was Shaito, as he greeted. I see you're back on your feet. I'm surprised it took so long for your injuries to be healed. They're not healed, but they have never bothered me. I can keep fighting, said Akumo. That's good, said Shaito, as the woman went back to pumping drugs back into the kunoichi. I have some news that you might like. What news is that? Asked Akumo. According to my man who made it back, a group of Konoha ninjas came to the village to aid them. Konoha ninjas? As a smile came on Akumo's face. Oh, a powerful ninja, you might know him. His name is Naruto Uzumaki. As a big grin spread across Akumo's face, as he looked quite feral. The next morning, as the sun rose over the village, the bodies had already been taken in burial, as it was no time to mourn their dead yet, because they wouldn't know when the next strike is going to happen. Over 1 week has passed since Naruto and his team arrived here. They had used the time wisely by helping everyone where they could. Many of the village kunoichi were already up. They couldn't leave the village in the state, so they were doing their best to do what they could. As there was also a large bundle of Naruto clones going around helping as well. As it helped that there were so many helping the kunoichis, as they were grateful for that. Just standing in one spot of the village, a person could easily spot over 100 Naruto clones. How many clones did you make? Asked Ino as she, Choji, Tenten, and Shizuka watched. As Naruto was also there, of course, as he stood close to Shizuka, but not that close. Well, no one would know that they would be having sex since he arrived. Well, except for Tenten. Maybe about 1,000, said Naruto. 1,000 shadow clones? Seriously? Said Ino. I knew you had a lot of chakra, but damn. Should we help with the repairs? Asked Choji. No, thanks to the offer, but I have something that I would like you guys to do, said Shizuka. And what's that? Asked Tenten, who was acting stranger than usual. She'd been giving Naruto the cold shoulder ever since. Colder than before, but he would catch her staring at him. Every time he called her, she would turn her head and look away. I'd like you to help my people locate Akumo. Based off the locations, Shizuka stated, I currently have Tokiwa trying to track down where the bandits from last night disappeared to. With luck, she will have some knowledge about their whereabouts when she get back. Most of the morning is spent with people being directed in the repairs, as Naruto asked Ino to link up with the kunoichis that were dealing with the medical squad, because they weren't that, well, talented at it. Only 1 or 2 was actually capable of using medical ninjutsu. The others used standard practice that doctors would use. And they also had some breakfast, but it wasn't much. Sorry that I don't have much food, said Shizuka, as the group ate breakfast with her in the meeting room. It's fine, Choji said, as he was chomping down on the food. I stock much food, he said, taking breaks while speaking, that I can share with everyone. I would appreciate that, she said, as when Shizuka said that they didn't have much, he had really meant it. This was some of the last remaining food. What happened? Said Ino, as Shizuka took a breath, remembering something unpleasant. Because of our village can't sustain itself, I sent a squadron to a nearby village to buy supplies, but they didn't return. So I sent another squadron, but after they didn't come back, I went with some of my trusted kunoichis, as we found the sites of a battle with dead bodies of bandits, but none of them were my kunoichis. One of my kunoichis are an expert in tracking, and she said that they were captured. So after that, as Shizuka shuddered a bit, knowing that it was her fault why her kunoichis were captured, because she shouldn't send them. But that is when Akumo attacked, she said, shuddering at the thought some of the jam that she was wiping on toast got in her face. Naruto leaned over and used his finger to take off the jam, and then placed that finger into his mouth. The act was so clean. Seeing that he has done it many times, he didn't realize what he was doing, until Ino whistled. Whoa, you two seem pretty close. Is there something you're not telling us? As Naruto realized his mistake too late. Should he say something? Well, he didn't really care if people found out about his relationship. Shizuka, Temari, Koyuki, all of them already know about each other, and they were the one who opinion and thoughts mattered the most. But before he could say anything, Shizuka spoke up, as her expression quite serious. Naruto and I are very close. We are lovers after all. As Ino's eyes went wide, as Choji started to choke on his food, as he coughed several times, as Tenten froze. But she didn't look really surprised. When did this happen? How did this happen? Naruto, you dog, why didn't you say anything? Asked Ino, who looked so joyful she could hardly contain herself. It happened during the time I spent training here, obviously. And I didn't say anything because it's not important to the mission. Let's focus so we can help the village instead of my love life, yeah? Oh, that's no fun. Come on, said Ino. You can tell me about it, I promise. I won't tell anyone else, she said. But guys, I'm being ending this episode right here. If you want the next part, if you don't know what to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notifications they posted. And share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also, stay tuned for the rest of the what is coming your way. And also go ahead and check out a new episode of What If Naruto had the red Rinnegan and was neglected. And enjoy that, guys. But for now, I'm out of here. See you guys soon. Peace.